The encounter. The air was thick with smoke as Ethan maneuvered through the ruins of what was once a thriving city on Varenthia. As a soldier in the United Earth Forces, he had seen his share of battles across distant worlds, but nothing could prepare him for this chaotic scene. Explosions echoed in the distance, punctuated by the crackle of energy weapons firing overhead. Ethan's mission was clear: locate an important target believed to be hidden among the remnants of this alien metropolis. His squad had landed under cover of darkness, but now they were scattered, each member engaged in their own fight against an unseen enemy. He tightened his grip on his plasma rifle, scanning his surroundings for any sign of life, or death. Suddenly, he heard it, a fierce battle cry followed by the sound of metal clashing against metal. Curiosity piqued, he moved toward the noise, heart racing as he rounded a corner of crumbling stone. What he saw stopped him in his tracks. A lone alien warrior was surrounded by several hostile combatants. She was tall and imposing, her dark skin shimmering with hues of crimson under the flickering light of distant explosions. Her armor was battered but still functional. She fought valiantly against her foes, her movements fluid yet desperate. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He couldn't just stand by while someone fought for their life, especially not against such overwhelming odds. Without thinking twice, he dove into the fray, firing his rifle at the nearest enemy soldier. The plasma bolts struck true. One by one, he took down those who threatened her life. The alien warrior glanced at him mid-fight, surprise flickering in her golden eyes as she parried an attack aimed at her. Together they fought side by side, Ethan covering her while she dispatched enemies with lethal grace. They moved like a well-rehearsed dance, his shots providing openings for her swift strikes. As silence fell over the battlefield following their victory, Ethan approached her cautiously. She knelt on the ground, panting heavily as blood dripped from wounds on her arms and legs. "You saved me," she rasped, her voice low but filled with gratitude. There was an accent to her words that felt strangely familiar yet utterly foreign. "Why were you fighting alone?" Ethan asked, kneeling beside her to assess her injuries. Her armor was torn in places, revealing deep gashes beneath. "I had no choice," she replied softly, wincing as she shifted slightly. "My people were defeated, I was abandoned here. But I knew I could still fight, even if it was for nothing." Ethan hesitated. He had been trained to see enemies as just that, enemies. Yet here she was before him, not just an alien but a warrior who had fought bravely against overwhelming odds alongside him. "I'm not here to make enemies," he said slowly, resting a hand on her shoulder gently. "I'm here to protect those who need it." Her golden eyes studied him intently as if searching for something deeper within him. "You are different," she said finally, "your kind is different from others I have fought." "What's your name?" he asked. "Lyra," she replied with newfound strength in her voice. "I am Lyra, a warrior of my people, the Zari." Ethan helped Lyra up carefully. She leaned heavily against him but stood tall despite her injuries. "Let me get you out of here," he said firmly as he glanced back at his team securing the area around them. But before he could move away, Lyra grasped his wrist with surprising strength. "Wait," she said urgently, narrowing her eyes at him. "There is something I must ask of you, something that requires more than just your strength." "What do you need?" Ethan frowned slightly. Uncertainty crept into his mind about what she might ask. Lyra hesitated for a moment as if weighing her words carefully before continuing. "I need your help to take something back, something vital to my people's survival that was stolen from us." Ethan raised an eyebrow in confusion but felt compelled to hear more about what she meant. "What exactly are you talking about?" Her gaze softened further. This time there was urgency laced with desperation in her voice as she spoke again. "I am not a warrior without cause, I fight because there is something greater at stake." She paused briefly before continuing with conviction. "We were once a proud civilization before our world was destroyed by our enemies. The key to saving my people lies within an ancient relic we safeguarded for centuries, it was taken from us by those who betrayed us. Ethan stared at Lyra, trying to process what she had just revealed, an artifact capable of altering fates. Would helping her mean betraying everything he had been taught? But looking into her pleading eyes made it hard to ignore how much this meant, not just for her but potentially for many others caught up in this war between worlds. "I'll help you," he said finally, after weighing everything in silence between them, a decision made not lightly but out of necessity, born from compassion rather than conflict itself. The aftermath. As the dust settled on the battlefield, Ethan and Lyra found themselves in a moment of unexpected calm. The chaos of combat faded into the background, leaving only the sounds of their heavy breathing and the distant echoes of gunfire. Ethan glanced around at the remnants of their fight. Fallen enemies and scattered debris littered the ground, a stark reminder of the violence they had just endured together. A moment of reflection. Ethan helped Lyra to her feet, supporting her as she leaned against him for balance. Her wounds were severe, but she was determined to stand tall. "We need to find shelter," Ethan said, scanning the area for any signs of safety. "I can't let you bleed out here." Lyra nodded, her golden eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and pain. "There is a safe house not far from here," she replied, her voice steady despite her injuries. "It's hidden among the ruins. We can rest there and plan our next move." Ethan led Lyra through the crumbling streets, keeping an eye out for any remaining threats. As they walked, he couldn't help but reflect on their unlikely alliance. Just hours ago, he had been ready to complete his mission without a second thought about the alien warrior fighting for her life. Now, he felt a sense of responsibility toward her, a bond forged in the heat of battle. The safe house. They reached the safe house, a dilapidated structure partially hidden by overgrown vines and debris. Inside, it was dark and musty, but it offered them protection from prying eyes. Ethan helped Lyra inside and found a corner where she could sit down. "Stay here," he instructed gently as he rummaged through his pack for medical supplies. He had been trained in basic first aid but had never treated an alien before. Still, he was determined to do whatever it took to help her. Lyra watched him with a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "You humans are surprisingly resilient," she said, trying to lighten the mood despite her pain. "You fight fiercely even when outnumbered." Ethan chuckled softly as he cleaned her wounds with antiseptic wipes. "We've had our fair share of battles," he admitted. "But I think it's our ability to adapt that keeps us going." As he bandaged her injuries, Lyra shared stories about her people, the Zari, and their struggle against oppression from rival factions. She spoke passionately about their culture, their history, and their quest for survival amidst chaos. A shared purpose. "I fight not just for myself but for my people," Lyra said earnestly. "We have lost so much already, our homes, our families. If I can reclaim the artifact that was stolen from us, I can restore hope to my people." Ethan listened intently, feeling a growing sense of purpose in what she was saying. He understood that this mission was no longer just about extracting information, it was about saving lives, her lives. "What is this artifact?" Ethan asked as he secured the last bandage around her arm. "It is an ancient relic known as the Heartstone," Lyra explained. "It holds immense power, capable of healing our planet and restoring balance to our people's lives. Without it, we are doomed to continue suffering under oppression." Ethan nodded slowly, processing the weight of her words. He realized that helping Lyra could mean more than just aiding one warrior, it could change the fate of an entire civilization. The plan. Once Lyra was patched up, they began discussing their next steps. "We need to gather more information about where the Heartstone is being held," Ethan suggested. "If we can pinpoint its location, we can devise a plan to retrieve it." Lyra agreed, her eyes brightening with determination. "There are others who might help us, Zari loyalists who want to see our people free again." She paused thoughtfully before continuing. "But we must be cautious, there are spies everywhere. Then we'll have to move quickly and quietly, Ethan replied, feeling a surge of adrenaline at the thought of their mission ahead. An unexpected visitor. Just as they were finalizing their plan, Ethan heard a noise outside, the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching their hiding place. He quickly motioned for Lyra to stay silent as he moved toward the entrance to investigate. Peering through a crack in the door, Ethan saw two figures approaching, one human and one Zari warrior dressed in dark clothing that blended into the shadows. His heart raced at the sight. Could this be an enemy or an ally? "Stay back," he whispered urgently to Lyra as he prepared himself for confrontation. The door creaked open slightly as Ethan stepped out into view, plasma rifle raised defensively. "Who goes there?" he called out firmly. The human figure raised his hands in surrender while the Zari warrior stood poised but non-threateningly beside him. "Wait. We mean you no harm," the human shouted back. Ethan squinted against the dim light and recognized him. It was Jax, one of his squad members who had been separated during the chaos earlier. "Jax. What are you doing here?" Ethan lowered his weapon slightly but remained alert. "We were looking for you," Jax replied breathlessly as he stepped closer cautiously. "We heard reports of heavy fighting in this area and came to find you. Are you all right?" "I'm fine," Ethan assured him before glancing at Lyra beside him. "But we need your help." "A new alliance." Jax's gaze shifted from Ethan to Lyra, his expression turning from confusion to understanding as he took in her presence and injuries. "Is she?" Jax began but hesitated at what to say next. "She's with me now," Ethan interjected firmly. "Her name is Lyra, and she's fighting for her people just like we are." Jax looked between them before nodding slowly in acceptance. "All right then," he said decisively. "What do we need to do?" Lyra stepped forward with renewed confidence after hearing Jax's willingness to cooperate. "I need your help to find my allies, a group of Zari who still believe in our cause." Jax exchanged glances with Ethan before responding with determination in his voice. "Let's do it then. We'll gather your allies and make a plan together." With newfound hope igniting within them all, they began crafting their strategy, an alliance forged not just between humans and aliens but between warriors united by purpose against a common enemy. Setting out. As they prepared to leave the safe house behind them, Ethan felt a sense of camaraderie forming among them, a bond that transcended species and backgrounds alike. Together they stepped out into the night once more, their mission clear ahead, reclaiming what was lost and fighting for those who could not fight for themselves. With every step they took into uncertainty lay possibilities waiting patiently beneath surface, waiting patiently until time comes when truth revealed, shining brightly, illuminating path forward, guiding steps taken onward toward destiny, forged together hand in hand, forging bonds unbreakable, forged through trials faced, overcoming obstacles encountered along way, learning lessons taught along journey, traveled together, forging ahead into unknown, reaching out, grasping hold tightly, never letting go. Until final destination reached, fulfilled dreams realized, standing tall, proud, victorious, celebrating triumphs shared forever, etched memories cherished, held dear, close hearts forever binding, souls intertwined, eternally united forevermore. The mission. With the weight of their newfound alliance hanging in the air, Ethan, Lyra, and Jax began to strategize their next steps. They were no longer just a human soldier and an alien warrior, they were now a team united by a common goal. The Heartstone was not just an artifact, it was a beacon of hope for Lyra's people, and they were determined to reclaim it. Gathering allies. As they discussed their plan, Lyra explained the importance of finding her allies. "There are Zari loyalists who still believe in our cause," she said, her voice steady despite her injuries. "They are hiding in the outskirts of this city, waiting for a sign that we are ready to fight back." Ethan nodded, understanding the urgency of their mission. "Then we need to move quickly. The longer we wait, the more vulnerable you and your people become." Jax chimed in, "I can use my tech skills to gather intel on their location. If we can find out who's still loyal to the Zari cause, we can rally them to our side." Lyra smiled gratefully at Jax. "Thank you. Your help means more than you know." With a plan forming, they set off into the remnants of the city, navigating through the shadows and ruins. Ethan led the way, keeping his senses sharp for any signs of danger while Jax used his portable device to scan for signals from any remaining Zari loyalists. The search begins. As they moved deeper into the city, Ethan felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. This was uncharted territory for him. He had always been trained to view aliens as enemies, but now he was fighting alongside one. Lyra's bravery inspired him. She moved with purpose despite her injuries, her determination evident in every step. After what felt like hours of searching, Jax's device finally beeped with activity. "I've got something," he exclaimed, pointing to a flickering signal on his screen. "There are several Zari signatures nearby, this way." They followed Jax's lead through narrow alleyways and crumbling buildings until they reached an abandoned warehouse tucked away from prying eyes. The entrance was dark and foreboding, but Lyra stepped forward confidently. "This is it," she said, her voice low but filled with conviction. "My people are inside." A risky reunion. Ethan exchanged glances with Jax before nodding in agreement. They had come too far to turn back now. Carefully, they approached the entrance and stepped inside the dimly lit space. Inside the warehouse, they found a small group of Zari warriors gathered around a flickering holographic map projected onto a makeshift table. The atmosphere was tense. These warriors had been waiting for news from Lyra. "Lyra," one of them shouted as he spotted her. He rushed forward, concern etched across his features as he examined her wounds. "What happened? We thought you were lost." "I was," Lyra replied with a fierce determination in her voice. "But I have returned with allies." She gestured toward Ethan and Jax standing behind her. The room fell silent as all eyes turned toward them. The Zari warriors exchanged wary glances. Humans were not often welcomed among them. "Why should we trust them?" one warrior challenged, crossing his arms defiantly. Lyra stepped forward again, her voice steady and commanding. "Because they have offered to help us reclaim the Heartstone from those who betrayed us. Together, we can turn the tide in this war." Building trust. Ethan felt the weight of their scrutiny as he stepped forward to address them directly. "I know that humans have been your enemies for years," he began cautiously. "But I'm here because I believe that working together is our best chance at survival." One Zari warrior scoffed at him but remained silent as Lyra continued to speak passionately about their mission. "We have suffered enough," she declared fiercely. "This is our chance to fight back against those who seek to destroy us. With your strength and our knowledge of human tactics, we can reclaim what is rightfully ours." Slowly but surely, murmurs of agreement began to ripple through the group as they considered Lyra's words. "What do you propose?" another warrior asked finally. "Formulating a plan." Lyra took a deep breath before outlining their plan. "First, we need to gather more information about where the Heartstone is being held," she explained. "We suspect it is in a heavily guarded facility controlled by our enemies." Jax chimed in again with enthusiasm. "I can hack into their surveillance systems. If I can get access to their feeds, we'll know exactly how many guards are stationed there and what defenses they have in place." The Zari warriors nodded in agreement. This was a solid plan that could give them an edge. "Once we have that information," Lyra continued, "we'll need to create a diversion while a small team infiltrates the facility to retrieve the Heartstone." Ethan felt a sense of camaraderie building among them all, a shared purpose that transcended species and backgrounds alike. Preparing for battle. With their plan laid out before them, everyone began preparing for what lay ahead. The Zari warriors gathered weapons and supplies while Jax set up his equipment to hack into enemy communications. Ethan felt adrenaline coursing through him as he checked his plasma rifle one last time before heading out with Lyra by his side. "Are you ready?" she asked quietly as they stood at the entrance of the warehouse. He nodded firmly. "More than ever." As they stepped out into the night once more, their mission clear ahead, Ethan couldn't shake off the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much larger than himself or even this conflict between humans and aliens. Together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united by purpose and driven by hope for a better future. Not just for themselves but for all those caught up in this war between worlds fighting side by side towards victory against all odds, standing firm, unyielding despite challenges faced ahead, waiting patiently just beyond horizon, waiting patiently until dawn breaks anew, bringing forth possibility, endless possibilities awaiting discovery, yet unseen, still hidden beneath surface, waiting patiently until time comes when truth revealed, shining brightly, illuminating path forward, guiding steps taken onward toward destiny, forged together hand in hand, forging bonds unbreakable, forged through trials faced, overcoming obstacles encountered along way, learning lessons taught along journey traveled together, forging ahead into unknown, reaching out, grasping hold tightly, never letting go until final destination reached, fulfilled dreams realized, standing tall, proud, victorious, celebrating triumphs shared, forever etched, memories cherished, held dear, close hearts forever binding, souls intertwined, eternally united forevermore. The revelation. The atmosphere in the warehouse was thick with tension as Ethan, Lyra, and their newfound allies regrouped after their narrow escape. The Zari warriors gathered around, their expressions a mix of disappointment and determination. They had come so close to reclaiming the Heartstone, and now they were left with more questions than answers. A moment of reflection. Ethan leaned against a wall, catching his breath while observing Lyra as she spoke with her fellow warriors. He admired her resilience. Despite the setback, she remained focused on their mission. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a battle for an artifact, it was a fight for survival, for hope, and for a future that seemed increasingly uncertain. "Ethan," Jack said, pulling him from his thoughts. "We need to discuss our next steps. We can't just sit here waiting for the enemy to come to us." Ethan nodded, his mind racing. "You're right. We need to gather more information about the facility and their security measures. If we're going to go back for the Heartstone, we need a solid plan." Lyra approached them, her golden eyes filled with determination. "I have contacts among the Zari who can help us gather intel. If we can reach them safely, they may provide us with crucial information about the enemy's movements." The plan takes shape. "Let's split into two teams," Ethan suggested. "One team can stay here and fortify our position while the other goes to meet your contacts. We can cover more ground that way." Jax nodded in agreement. "That makes sense. I'll stay here and work on hacking into their communications again to see if I can pick up any intel from their systems." Lyra looked at Ethan, her expression serious. "I want to go with you. I need to be there when we reach my people." Ethan hesitated for a moment but then nodded. "All right, Lyra. You know your people better than anyone else." He turned to Jax. "You'll be safe here, right?" "Absolutely," Jax replied confidently. "Just keep me updated on what you find." Setting out. With their plan in place, Ethan and Lyra prepared to leave the warehouse once again. The night air was cool against their skin as they stepped outside, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they moved through the city's ruins, Lyra shared stories about her people, their traditions, their struggles, and their hopes for a brighter future. Ethan listened intently, fascinated by her passion and strength. "We are not just warriors," Lyra explained as they navigated through debris-strewn streets. "We are caretakers of our culture and history. The Heartstone is not just a relic, it represents everything we have lost and everything we hope to regain." Ethan felt a deep sense of respect for her people's resilience in the face of adversity. He realized that this mission was not just about retrieving an artifact, it was about restoring dignity and hope to an entire civilization. Reaching out. After what felt like hours of navigating through the darkened streets, they finally arrived at a hidden alcove where Lyra's contacts were supposed to meet them. The area was quiet but tense, they could feel the weight of uncertainty hanging in the air. "Stay alert," Ethan whispered as they approached the meeting point. Suddenly, from the shadows emerged two Zari figures, one tall and imposing with striking blue skin and another smaller with bright green markings across her face. Lyra, the taller figure, exclaimed as he stepped forward, relief evident in his voice. "We feared you were lost." "I'm here now," Lyra replied firmly but with warmth in her tone. "We need your help." The gathering of allies. The two Zari warriors introduced themselves as Kale and Mira, both seasoned fighters dedicated to protecting their people from oppression. "What news do you bring?" Kale asked seriously as they gathered around in a circle. "We attempted to retrieve the Heartstone but were thwarted by increased security measures," Lyra explained quickly. "We need to know how many guards are stationed at the facility and if there are any weaknesses we can exploit." Mira nodded thoughtfully before responding. "We have been monitoring their movements closely. There is a shift change every few hours when security is at its weakest." Ethan felt a surge of hope at this information. "If we time our next attempt during that shift change, we might have a chance," he said. Kale crossed his arms and considered this carefully before speaking again. "But it will still be dangerous. They are aware that someone is trying to infiltrate their stronghold." "We'll be ready," Lyra assured them with fierce determination in her eyes. Formulating the strategy. With new intel gathered, they began formulating their strategy for the next attempt at retrieving the Heartstone. They discussed various approaches, disguises, distractions, and timing, all while maintaining an air of urgency. "We will need every advantage we can get," Ethan said firmly as he outlined their plan on a makeshift map drawn in the dirt. As they strategized together, Zari warriors alongside human soldiers, a sense of camaraderie began to blossom among them all. They were no longer just individuals from different worlds but allies united by purpose. Preparing for battle. As dawn began to break over the horizon, casting soft light across the ruins around them, Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of determination fill him. This mission had become more than just retrieving an artifact, it was about standing up against oppression and fighting for what was right, together. They spent the remaining hours preparing for what lay ahead, gathering weapons, checking supplies, and ensuring everyone understood their roles in this high-stakes operation. When everything was ready, Lyra stood before them all, a fierce glint in her golden eyes as she addressed her fellow warriors alongside Ethan's team. "We fight not only for ourselves but for all who have suffered under tyranny," she declared passionately. "Today we reclaim our future." Cheers erupted among them as they rallied together, a united front ready to face whatever challenges awaited them on this perilous journey ahead toward destiny, forged together hand in hand, forging bonds unbreakable, forged through trials faced, overcoming obstacles encountered along way, learning lessons taught along journey traveled together, forging ahead into unknown, reaching out, grasping hold tightly, never letting go until final destination reached, fulfilled dreams realized, standing tall, proud. Victorious, celebrating triumphs shared, forever etched, memories cherished, held dear, close hearts forever binding, souls intertwined, eternally united forevermore. The heist. With their plan set in motion and a renewed sense of purpose, Ethan, Lyra, and Jax prepared to embark on their mission to retrieve the Heartstone. The atmosphere inside the warehouse buzzed with anticipation as the Zari warriors gathered around, each one eager to contribute to the fight for their people's future. Final preparations. Ethan felt a mix of excitement and anxiety as they gathered supplies. He checked his plasma rifle again, ensuring it was fully charged. Jax was busy calibrating his hacking device, while Lyra spoke with the Zari warriors, rallying them for what lay ahead. "Remember," Lyra said, her voice strong and clear, "we are not just fighting for ourselves but for our families and our future. Together, we can reclaim what was stolen from us." The Zari warriors nodded in agreement, their determination palpable. Ethan admired their spirit. They were fighting not just for survival but for the hope of a better tomorrow. Once everyone was equipped and ready, Lyra led them out of the warehouse into the darkened streets of the city. The night was alive with distant sounds of combat. Explosions and shouts echoed through the air. They moved stealthily, using the shadows to conceal their presence as they made their way toward the enemy stronghold. Infiltration begins. As they approached the facility where the Heartstone was believed to be held, Ethan's heart raced. The building loomed ahead, heavily guarded by enemy soldiers patrolling its perimeter. Jax pulled out his device and began scanning for security systems. "I'm picking up multiple cameras and motion sensors," he whispered, his brow furrowed in concentration. "If I can hack into their system, we can create a blind spot to slip through." "Do it," Ethan urged, glancing around to ensure no one was watching them. Jax worked quickly, fingers flying over the screen as he bypassed security protocols. Just a few more seconds. "Got it," he exclaimed triumphantly. "The cameras are down for now. We have a window. Let's move." Lyra commanded, leading the group toward a side entrance that Jax had pointed out. They slipped through the door quietly, entering a dimly lit corridor filled with the hum of machinery and distant voices. Ethan felt adrenaline coursing through him. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. Navigating the facility. Inside the facility, they moved cautiously through the hallways, staying low and avoiding detection. The air was thick with tension as they passed by various rooms filled with alien technology and equipment that Ethan had never seen before. "This place is a treasure trove of advanced tech," Jax whispered in awe as they crept past an open lab filled with strange devices. "Focus," Lyra reminded him sharply. "We need to find the Heartstone." They continued down the corridor until they reached a large door marked with an emblem that matched Lyra's description of where the Heartstone would be kept. Ethan took a deep breath. This was it. "Jax, can you get us in?" he asked. "On it," Jax replied, pulling out his device again. He began working on bypassing the lock while Lyra stood guard at the door. After a few tense moments that felt like an eternity, Jax grinned as the door clicked open. "We're in the Heartstone chamber." Ethan pushed open the door slowly, revealing a large chamber illuminated by soft blue light emanating from a pedestal at its center. There it was, the Heartstone, glowing with an otherworldly energy that seemed to pulse in rhythm with their heartbeats. "It's beautiful," Lyra breathed, stepping forward in awe. Ethan felt a surge of hope as he approached the pedestal cautiously. But before he could reach out to touch it, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. "Move! We've been detected!" Ethan shouted as he grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her back toward safety. A desperate escape. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed in response to the alarms as enemy soldiers rushed toward them from all directions. Panic surged through Ethan's veins. They had to get out fast. "Jax, can you shut down those alarms?" Ethan yelled over the chaos. "I'll try." Jax replied frantically as he worked on his device again while dodging incoming fire from enemy soldiers. Lyra took charge of defending them. She drew her weapon and fired back at their pursuers with precision and skill. "We need cover," she shouted urgently. Ethan turned to find an exit route while Jax continued hacking away at his device. "This way," he called out as he spotted an emergency exit sign glowing faintly in another corridor. They sprinted down the hallway together, Ethan covering their retreat while Lyra provided suppressive fire against their attackers. The adrenaline fueled them as they dodged blasts and maneuvered through obstacles in their path. Reaching safety. Finally reaching the emergency exit, Ethan kicked open the door and burst outside into the cool night air. They stumbled into an alleyway just behind the facility, a narrow escape from certain capture. "We made it!" Jax exclaimed breathlessly as they caught their breath amidst heavy panting and racing hearts. Lyra looked back at the facility with determination burning in her eyes despite their close call. "We have to go back for the Heartstone," she said resolutely. "It's too important to leave behind." Ethan shook his head firmly but gently placed a hand on her shoulder to calm her down. "We can't go back now, not with all those guards on high alert," he replied earnestly. "We need to regroup and come up with another plan." Lyra hesitated but then nodded reluctantly. She understood that their safety came first even if it meant leaving behind something so precious. Regrouping. They quickly made their way back toward their safe house where other Zari warriors awaited news of their mission's success or failure. As they arrived back at the warehouse, tension hung thick in the air, a mixture of hope and anxiety about what lay ahead. "What happened?" one of the Zari warriors demanded as soon as they entered. "We found it," Ethan said breathlessly but then added quickly, "but we couldn't retrieve it." Lyra stepped forward to explain what had happened during their infiltration, the alarms going off unexpectedly and how close they had come to securing their prize before being forced to retreat. The Zari warriors listened intently. Disappointment washed over some faces while others remained resolute in their determination to continue fighting for what belonged to them. "We will find another way," Lyra declared passionately after finishing her account of events. Her spirit unbroken despite setbacks faced a long journey traveled together thus far, forging ahead into unknown, reaching out, grasping hold tightly, never letting go until final destination reached, fulfilled dreams realized, standing tall, proud, victorious, celebrating triumphs shared, forever etched, memories cherished, held dear, close hearts forever binding, souls intertwined, eternally united forevermore.